Okay, today we're doing something a little more advanced than before. Right here, we have a divide by 12 that we never had before, and that makes this problem into a monthly. Then we have this minus 100. That makes this into a loan problem. Why? Why is the fact that it has a minus 100 make it a loan instead of an investment? Yes, because you're paying off the loan, and that'll make the 5,000 go what? Up or down? Down. You want your loan amount to go down. So one little thing that, try to remember this like 2 days from now when you get into really intense problems. Sometimes you've done a loan problem right, but the loan amount actually isn't going down, it's going up. What could be wrong? How much you're paying. If you aren't paying enough, let's make a ludicrous example, that I decide to borrow the money to buy a brand new Tesla X, and it's like $100,000, and I make $4 a month payments. Do you get how that's kind of like, wait a minute, that's not going to work? Because why? Because my loan amount would actually go up. Why would it go up? Because the interest they're charging would be way more than the $4 a month I'm trying to pay. All right, so that sometimes happens to people later in this unit. All right, so we checked this out, and we went to U sub 56 on our calculator and U sub 57, and we found that here we still owed $18.36. But then all of a sudden it did this. That means after one more payment, right? How much are the payments again? $100. We make one more payment, and then all of a sudden, what's this negative number? Do you get you only owed them $18, but you paid them $100? So, what does it mean? That's money they owe you back. In the real world, this happens all the time. You guys may know that I have an insurance agency, and so we kind of deal with this from a completely different than education. In the insurance world, if you send your insurance company a check that's more than it was supposed to be, they can't just like say, thank you, and keep it. You know what I mean? They have to mail you back the extra. Like if you owed them $100 and you sent them 112 by accident, they have to mail you back the difference. Well, that's what this is. You made an extra payment of $100, and now they owe you $81.54 back. That's exactly what happens in the real world all the time. People get done at the end of their mortgage. They're at the very end of like owing for a car or whatever, and they make their last payment, and all of a sudden, ooh, we actually owe you money back. And then they send you a little check back. This check was actually pretty decent size. It sends you back $81.54. So how would you use that on an actual test question? Here's what the test question would say. They would say, in this $5,000 loan, at what month was it paid off? Well, first the trick answer would have been 56, because you know it's close, but you aren't paid off yet, are you? So after 57 months would be the answer. You are paid off. And then another follow-up could be, how much do they owe you back? And then you'd say $81.54. And here's the more complicated question. How much total did this loan cost you? Did it cost you just $5,000? No, $5,000 plus interest, right? How much interest did you pay? Well, hint, you made 57 payments of $100. Can you multiply that out in your head quick? 57 times 100 makes $5,700. So did it really cost you $5,700? No, because they're going to send you a check for some money back. How to get the $5,700 again? It was 57 payments times $100 equaled $5,700. But now, what do we got to do? Subtract what? 81.54, and then let's see what that grand total is. Grab your calculator, do that. 5,700 minus 81.54. PW, what'd you get?
5,618.46.
Awesome, and we'll be rounding to pennies every time this unit. So always include those last two decimals. All right. So $5,618.46. What does that mean? I thought you borrowed $5,000. You kind of did, but then you paid them back. How much interest did they make? $618. You see why banks loan money? They made $600. Now, when you go to Best Buy, how do they make money? They buy TVs and they sell them to you for a markup. They make money when they sell you a TV. How much money do they make? Maybe they make 30, 40 bucks. Well, they make a lot of money on a loan like this, $618 in interest. Let me show you one where you would make a lot more money than that. How can you make more money? Well, either you charge more interest or you lend people a bigger amount of money. What's another typical scenario where people borrow money to buy something? A house. All right, so let's do this one. Let's say that you borrow. I'm going to now tell you a story, and you're going to change this equation to match it. So this number is going to change, and this number is going to change, and this number is going to change, but don't wipe everything out. Just change what you need to change. So here's the story. I bought a house a long time ago for $111,000, but I didn't have to borrow all of that. I had saved up like $11,000 in cash. So I borrowed about $100,000. Have you changed something in your calculator yet? You should do that now before it stacks up to be too many changes. I borrowed $100,000, not $5,000. I borrowed $100,000. Next, I paid about 7.5% interest, and it was compounded monthly. 7.5% interest. Now, nowadays, you can get interest that's a lot better than that. Nowadays, you might be only charged like 4% interest, which is a way better deal than 7. But I remember my first one was in the 7s. Okay. Now, I paid payments, okay, and I paid a little more than I had to pay for my payments so that I could get it paid off early. What's a normal home loan? Do you have any clue how many years you have to pay back a normal home loan? There's two, I heard both of them, 15 and there's 30-year loans. Most people take a 30-year loan for a house. Because if you want to pay back in like 1 year, you pretty much have to pay $100,000. So, not many people have that much on their income. So yeah, you have to spread it out over a long time. So 30 years is a typical loan. They do have bigger ones than that, but 30 years is still the most common. So it took me 30 years, which is how many months? Very good, 360 months. Except I made payments that were big enough that it didn't take 30 years. It took less. I made payments of about $800 a month. Put the comma in the wrong spot, sorry. $800 a month. And it got paid off way quicker than 3 years. Would you please figure out how much did I end up paying total? And that'll make it easy to see how much interest I end up paying when I borrowed the money to get my house. Put that in the calculator, figure out how much total I paid. Like, let's say it ends up being 270 payments of $800. Okay, or whatever it is, you figure it out. And then how much interest did I pay? I'm going to pause for a second while you give that one a try with your partner. Okay, so I'm putting this in my calculator, and there, I even remember to divide by 12 this time. Well, what haven't I done yet? Payments. And what were the payments supposed to be on this thing? 800. If I put plus 800 by accident, I would change this thing instantly from a what to a what. If I changed it to a plus by accident, change from a loan to an investment. Okay, so I want this to be minus so that I am paying off a loan. Minus 800. And then I'm going to go to table settings, and a word on the street from the kids is it's around 240. And so I'm going to go up to my table around entry 240, which, by the way, does not mean 240 years. It means 240 what? Months. That's the most common mistake that we get on the tests on this, is kids get confused if they're in months or years, or what's one more option? Quarterly. Have you ever heard of quarterly instead of monthly? A lot of businesses operate on a quarterly system. Let me give you this example. I have that insurance company I was telling you about, or it's an insurance agency technically. We make quarterly insurance, sorry, not insurance payments. We make tax payments quarterly. All right. So if this had been divided by 4 in our formula, that would have been quarter. We did divide it by 12, which is monthly. And as I get to here, I can see that at 243, it's right on the edge of being paid off, but don't I still owe them money? Yeah. So it's actually 244 payments that finally gets it paid off, plus a little tiny bonus. They owe me 54 bucks. Okay. So how do I figure out the grand total? It took 244 payments. Saying 243 is actually off. It takes 244 payments of 800 bucks to get it paid off, but then you got to factor in they owe you money back. So somebody with a calculator, which is, here, I'll just do it myself. 244 times 800, 244 times 800 is 195,200. Then they owe me $54 and how much? 54 point what? 85? And that comes up to 195,145. 15. I only borrowed 100,000, but I paid back almost 200,000. You see why they like to have you borrow money from them versus their competitor? If you walk into Wells Fargo or whatever and you want to borrow money to buy a house, they see it in the long run. This dude's going to pay me like $95,000 of not all profit, but a lot of that is profit. So banks make a lot of money. That's why they can put up giant buildings with their names on it. You know, like they can make a lot of cash. Does it always pay off for them? No. But really the way it can go bad for them is if you borrow the money, and then how can you get out of paying it back? You really can't, because what happens is if you don't pay them back, they take your house away. Because that's their, so they got some pretty good leverage on you. You can't just say, well, sorry, I can't pay you. You can do that for like a month or two, but if you go too long, they just take your house away. And the only way they can really lose money on that is some people get really ticked that they're about to lose their house, and so they'll like destroy it. And then they'll give it back to the bank all like mauled, you know, just in really terrible shape. Then the bank has to try to sell your house, and they won't get near as much for it because it's really in bad shape. And also, they have to hire a realtor to sell it for them. Do you get that? They can't just like, banks aren't good at selling things all by themselves, so they're going to have to hire a realtor. That costs some money. And so I'm just trying to say, it's not like it's all roses for the bank that they always make 95 grand on everybody. But in my case, they did. They made like that much money because I just always kept paying them back. But on the good side, my house now is worth way more than it used to be. I bought it for about 111. It's probably worth about 260 now. So the house went up in value, but I paid a lot of interest along the way to make that happen. All right, your homework for tonight. Let's look at it together. Find it. It's posted. It's got today's date on it. Go there in Schoology. I'm pausing for a second. So here's the ones that I want you to skip. I want you to skip 1B. So you may scribble out 1B. I'm always suspicious if people aren't writing on their iPad at this point. Everybody likes to cross off problems. So if you're not with me, get with me now. I don't want to read this to you again in 2 minutes. Okay, we're skipping 1B. We're skipping 3. I can't move it down. We're skipping 3. And we're skipping 7, 8, 9. All of that. Why am I letting you skip so much? Because I think if you do the ones that I've given you, you'll get it from that. If you realize I checked the key and I'm doing them wrong, maybe you should do some extra ones. But for the average kid who tries it and checks it and is doing fine, that would be enough for you to get tonight's lesson. All right, so what do we skip again? 1B, 3, and then 7, 8, and 9 were all skips. Okay. So as I look at this, the first question I get, people are like, well, what's it divided by? It doesn't seem to be divided by anything. If it's not divided by anything else, it's really divided by a what? A 1. So this is like, think of it as like divided by 1. So then what's the frequency of compounding? 1 time per year. What's the actual loan or investment? Well, I look at this, it's going to grow every month. So is it a loan or an investment? It's an investment. What's the principal? The principal is how much you start with. It's different, obviously, than a school principal. The principal in an investment is what you start with. That's the principal. The principal's 1,000. What is the payment or deposit? It's that. That number at the end is always the payment or deposit. And which one is it? Well, it's not a payment because that'd be for a loan. This is a deposit. And amount, 100. Frequency of compounding was 1. An annual interest rate. If you said 0.04, I probably would have let it slide. But technically, it's supposed to be a percent. So, 4%. 0.04 means 4%, but it'd be better for you to use 4% there. Okay? Okay. I want to go on record and see who in here is going to make the bold call. I did this the other day in one of my classes before that snow day thing happened where we had 3 days in a row. Does anybody actually think we're going to get a late start tomorrow? Anybody want to go out on a limb and make the call you think it's going to happen? Nobody's buying it? All right. We got one person. All right. I'm giving it a 25% chance at least that there'll be a late start tomorrow. I'm just guessing. You know I don't know. I don't have that power. But there's supposed to be a lot of snow tonight anyway. It's going to snow pretty late at night, which is what makes me hope that they won't be able to get it all removed in time. Yeah. It's kind of the ideal time for the snow. It's just whether or not we get enough. All right. That's all I got for you for today.